Hi, welcome to the small shed. Today I want to deal with the storage on small drill bits and things like that. See you in a minute. Now, almost as soon as I moved into the shed, I put up some shelves on the slat wall that had got drill bits, countersink bits, small sockets, things like that, and tapes. And they have all stayed on that wall for the last year and a half or more. And it's produced one problem. It's very useful to have them where I can reach them and you can see them, but they're all covered in dust and you can't really dust the shelf when they're surrounded by spiky things sticking up. So I've decided that I want to move along in the same direction as I have with the battery charging and that, and get everything that I'm keeping in the way of drill bits, goggles, pencils, anything like that. I want to keep it in a dust-free enclosure. And to that end, I mentioned in a previous, in the charger station video, that I've got some watch boxes from our local resource centre, and they were just coming out stupid cheap. When I first bought some about 6 months ago, I think they're about 50p each or something like that. May have been a bit more even. I went back to the scrap store about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they'd got another batch of these in, and they were, this time, rather than being individually priced, they were in the scrap heap for just stuff that you go and pay by the basketful. And I picked up 15, I think it was, of these boxes for around £2, so they don't owe me a lot. And that leaves us with this very nice acrylic box that is 80 by 80 by about 120mm. And I'm intending to store them in the void that exists beneath the MFT workbench, but on top of the rolling cart. And that's really the reason for needing something that's dust proof, because so much stuff goes down through these holes that it would just fill up anything that you had underneath. I have got some, or I've got one at the moment, but I'm going to get some more fridge trays. These were from Aldi, I think. They're about £4 or £5 a piece, and I'm going to use those for things like tapes, because obviously they're not going to fit very well in there. Protective goggles, that sort of thing. Knives, pencils. So I'm going to have a couple of those. They will go double depth, one behind the other, so that I'll always know where the tapes are. The individual cases, I've already got some in the unit where I keep the screwdrivers and things. They're just got some of the Forstner bits, pencils, drills when I don't drop them on the floor, and so on. And they're ideal for that type of thing. They're the overspills. Some of the router bits and the like, I'll probably put a wooden insert inside there. It is a square opening. I've got some, one thing I've got a lot of is sapele at the moment, so I'll probably cut some squares or rectangles of sapele, and then I can drill them to take the items that I want to stack vertically and see. I've just had these little drills that will thread the wood as well, And that's again the sort of thing I'll be putting in here, but it does mean I can put them upright in there in drilled holes in all the various sizes. So that's the intention. I need to just measure up this space underneath and make some sort of a tray that will pull out to access these. And the only real downside is that in order to put them across one behind the other, they will need a gap between them to allow the lid to open. Now this is the void that I've got at the moment. It's about 100 millimeters deep on top of the roll-out bench. And what I'm intending to put in there is some sharpening stuff, a sharpening station, the boxes, and some of these pull-out trays. I've just had a quick measure up. The sharpening station I want to do is 310 mil. I've got 910 overall. That leaves me 600 mil left. The boxes with the layout that I'm doing at the moment look like being 345. That'll leave me 245 mil. Should get me 2 boxes side by side, 2 deep. So I'll have 4 of those boxes. The drills and everything else will go in these boxes, and what I think I'm going to do is put them 8 deep. I've just scrounged another one out of the cupboard, so I've got 16 of them. I'm going to put them side by side that way. There'll be a whole tray that the whole thing is held on, just to take it out if I ever need to as a complete unit. I've got the little Dymo letter tag that I use a lot with some white plastic tapes in it. Just type in what you want to have on there. You can do uppercase, lowercase, symbols, all sorts of things. The only problem is with lowercase, like a letter P goes down below the line and they give you a very strange looking P that starts at the top rather than low down with a lower section. But that's useful, as I say, for putting on any of these boxes and things, and I'm going to use that as all my labelling. Just press the label for that and it prints out a little white plastic label. Squeeze the side and it cuts it to length. Now for the first part of the tray, I've got a base of some MDF that I'd got at the back of the workbench here that hasn't really cost anything because it was essentially scrap left over from something else. I've taken whatever I can of these bits of tulip wood from the recycling centre. They cost me about 50p a piece, so they were quite cheap. I'm just doing a simple screwed, glued corner joints on those. Got a piece on the back. I've put a centre divider in, cut to length, and I've put a midway divider for the actual boxes that I'm using. These are the Aldi freezer boxes, fridge and freezer boxes. They're just going to slide in there loose, one on either side. When all that's screwed and glued together, that will give me this left hand side all done, and when it's loaded up I've got one with pens and pencils, one with tapes, one that I haven't as yet decided what it will be, so that's going to be future expansion, which is always wise to have some sort of an idea as to what to use space for in the future. And I've got one with goggles and the knives in it. Those will go into there and they'll just protrude very slightly underneath the bench so that I can see where they are, just to get a hold of them, pull them out, get the other one if I want to, but they'll run on those tracks. As I say, that's the left hand side done. I shall glue that together now and screw all the framework up, and I'll move on to the right hand side next week because it's a lot more complex. Right, so that's got the basic tray made. It's only essentially 3 sides with a divider down the middle and a further divider down the middle of that left hand side. All I've done so far is to get the trays done for the Aldi boxes, but they now slide in and out from there. One in each one, and that whole thing, that whole unit will go underneath the bench. The timber's rebaited out at the bottom, and there is now a sliding piece of perspex. That will have another tray built up on top of it to stiffen it up, with dividers down the middle and either side. I'll do that next week when we can have that one finished. I'm putting a little finger pull on the front of that one just so I can get my finger in it and pull it out. That will have the boxes, the watch boxes in it. I was going to stick them all in, but I've just realised as I've been working with things like the drills and countersinks that I use, that it would be counterproductive not to be able to lift one up, put it on the bench and use it, and then put it back away. So I think I'm going to divide it into 2 groups of 4, with a divider down the middle and a divider down the middle of each side, and that will then give me the option to just lift a box out to use, keep the things, put them back in when I'm not using them, and then put them in when I'm finished. And that way I think the things that I use most will naturally migrate towards the front through usage, and the things I use least will migrate to the back. But that's where we are at the moment. I'm going to knock it on the head there. Look forward to seeing you next week and we'll finish it off. If you like the video, the usual, please press like, subscribe and all that stuff, and I'll see you next week. Bye.